Picture this. It's late at night in a busy pizza shop. A young delivery driver walks in, uniform wrinkled, shoes falling apart, sweat dripping down his face. He's exhausted, but instead of a thank you, his manager stares him down and says in front of everyone, "You're lying." But here's the twist. In the corner, a quiet customer is watching everything unfold. And that customer isn't just anyone. It's John Cena, the man who secretly built this entire pizza chain. And what he's about to do will change the lives of everyone in that store. This isn't just a story about pizza. It's about leadership, betrayal, quiet heroes, and how one man's decision can flip an entire system upside down. Before we dive in, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe for more powerful stories, and drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. Because trust me, by the end of this story, you'll never look at John Cena the same way again. Not just as a wrestler, but as a real-life hero. The smell of garlic and melted cheese hung heavy in the air as the store's front door creaked open. Caleb, a delivery driver barely in his 20s, stumbled inside. His shirt was soaked with sweat. His shoes looked like they'd run through a storm, and his hands trembled as he clutched the strap of his pizza bag. He had been running non-stop all night, juggling delivery after delivery, but instead of being greeted with a simple good job, or even a glass of water, he was met with anger. The manager, a stocky man with a voice that could rattle the windows, barked at him in front of the entire crew. "You're late! Or what? Are you calling me a liar now?" The words cut like a blade. The entire store fell silent. The hum of the oven seemed to die down. The chatter of customers froze, and even Caleb's breathing stalled in his chest. He didn't argue. He didn't fight back. He just stood there, eyes lowered, carrying the kind of exhaustion you can't put into words. But what neither Caleb nor the shouting manager knew was that someone else had witnessed everything. In the corner booth, just far enough away to stay unnoticed, sat a man in a simple hoodie and a baseball cap pulled low. He looked like an ordinary customer, quietly sipping a soda, but he wasn't ordinary at all. That man was John Cena, and the look on his face wasn't just surprise. It was disappointment, because what he had just seen was not only a personal insult to a hard-working kid, it was a betrayal of everything he once built with his own two hands. In that moment, Cena knew one thing for certain. Something inside his company was broken. And tonight, he wasn't just here to eat pizza. He was here to find out how deep the cracks really went. For most of the world, John Cena was a name tied to packed arenas, roaring crowds, and championship belts. But what many didn't know was that years ago, away from the spotlight, he had built something entirely different. A small pizza shop on the west side of Indianapolis. No investors. No big marketing gimmicks. Just long nights, one oven, and a belief that people deserved honesty, in food and in work. That little shop grew. One location turned into dozens, and at its peak, the chain carried Cena's pride as much as his name. It wasn't about money. It was about creating something where both customers and employees felt respected. But lately, something had gone wrong. The reviews changed. The tone shifted. Complaints about rude staff, late orders, and overworked drivers began to pile up. Not just one store, but across the system. The regional manager brushed it off. Normal turnover. Post-pandemic struggles. Everyone's dealing with it. But Cena wasn't convinced. So instead of emails, instead of meetings, he made a choice. He pulled on an old hoodie, faded jeans, and a cap that shadowed most of his face. No superstar spotlight. No corporate badge. Just another man ordering a large pepperoni pizza from the very store with the worst reputation. And when that delivery finally arrived nearly an hour late, in the hands of an exhausted kid named Caleb, Cena realized this was no isolated problem. This was deeper. It was systemic. That night, Staring at the untouched box of pizza on his counter, Cena felt something shift inside him. He couldn't stay hidden anymore. He couldn't let what he built rot from the inside. Tomorrow, he decided, he wouldn't walk in as a customer. He would walk in as one of them. The founder was coming back. Not with fame, not with force, but in disguise. And no one in that store had any idea that their new hire was about to change everything. The next morning, John Cena walked into the store. Not as a superstar, not as the founder, but as the new guy. They gave him a faded gray t-shirt, a red cap, and a name tag sticker that read only one word, John. No one batted an eye. No one asked questions. To them, he was just another body to throw on the line. But what Cena saw behind those kitchen doors shook him to the core. The prep station was a disaster. Measuring tools left dirty for weeks, dough stretched thin to save costs, and a cooler on the verge of breaking down. Delivery drivers whispered about cutting shifts, about sleeping in their cars between runs because buses didn't run late enough to take them home. And then there was the scheduling. Cena stayed late that night, quietly logging into the old company system with an account nobody remembered he still had. The numbers on the screen told a story louder than any review could. Caleb, 32 hours 1 week, then slashed down to 24, then 15, and finally 9. Next to his name, a manager's note. Unreliable. Not priority. Trey Elise, the same pattern. Hours cut. Opportunities stripped away. But another worker, Greg, the manager's favorite, was stacked with 40 hours every week and a glowing note. Solid team player. Cena sat back in his chair, staring at the cold glow of the monitor. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't turnover. This was punishment. This was favoritism turned into policy. And somewhere along the way, the heart of his company had been replaced by fear. The next day, Cena didn't just watch quietly. He listened. He heard the manager, Ron Talbot, tear into a teenage worker for shaping dough the wrong way. He heard Caleb being accused of lying about his shift times. He saw Elise shrink into silence every time Ron raised his voice. It wasn't management. It was control through humiliation. And that's when Cena realized the truth. If this was happening here, in just one store, it was probably happening everywhere. The empire he built on honesty and respect was rotting from the inside. And if no one stopped it, the people keeping it alive, the workers sweating through every shift, were going to break. Cena clenched his jaw. He had stepped back once before. This time, he wouldn't. Inside Store 17, chaos was the norm. Orders stacked up. Ovens beeped without pause, and the manager's voice echoed like a hammer striking steel. But in the middle of that storm, Cena noticed something else. It wasn't the manager holding the place together. It was the crew. Elise, barely 19, stood at the register with tired eyes. Yet when an elderly woman came in struggling with her walker, Elise didn't just hand her a pizza bag. She walked her all the way out to her car, smiling softly the whole way. Trey, quiet and reserved, never made a scene. But when the line got slammed and the oven was overloaded, he kept humming old country tunes under his breath. Slowly, the others fell into rhythm with him. Without even trying, Trey gave the team a heartbeat. And then there was Caleb. He wasn't just another delivery driver. He was the glue. When the oven light blinked too long, Caleb adjusted it before anyone noticed. When a new driver looked ready to collapse, Caleb slipped him half a protein bar and told him to take 3 minutes. And when a panicked rookie nearly cried after messing up a sauce order, Caleb quietly fixed it and whispered, "Happens to everyone. You're good." Small actions, quiet moments. But Cena saw it all. He realized that the true leaders weren't the ones barking orders from the office. They were the ones on the line, showing up tired, unpaid for overtime, still carrying each other through the shift. Cena leaned against the counter one night, folding boxes next to Caleb. After a while, he asked softly, "You ever think about quitting?" Caleb gave a half smile, eyes still on the cardboard in his hands. "Almost every week. But if I go, Elise and Trey drown. Someone's gotta stick around." That answer hit Cena harder than any punch he'd ever taken in the ring. Because in Caleb's words, he heard the truth. These kids weren't working for the paycheck anymore. They were working for each other. And no one in charge had ever noticed. The break room was small, barely big enough for two people, and a vending machine that hummed louder than it worked. Cena sat there one evening, wiping sweat from his brow after a long shift stacking boxes. His name tag, just John, was curling at the edges. Across from him, Caleb leaned against the wall, gulping down a bottle of water. His shoulders slumped with exhaustion, but his eyes carried something else: responsibility. Cena broke the silence. "You care about this place, don't you?" Caleb shrugged, half smiling. "I don't even like pizza anymore. But Elise, Trey, the others, if I walk away, they'll sink. So I stay." For a moment, Cena just stared. This wasn't some corporate strategy. This wasn't profit or metrics. This was heart. This was leadership in its purest form. And Caleb didn't even know it. The next morning, Cena caught Caleb at the counter before opening. "You ever think about taking a different kind of shift?" Cena asked. Caleb frowned. "Like what?" "Like leading one." Caleb blinked, stunned. "Me? No, I'm not that kind of person." Cena shook his head slowly, a small smile forming. "Maybe that's exactly why you should be." The words sank in. Caleb looked around at the worn-out ovens, the broken timer duct taped to the prep line. Elise humming while she cleaned counters no one asked her to touch. His jaw tightened. "If I say yes," Caleb said finally, "I need to know it comes with real change. I'm not going to enforce the same garbage that broke us." Cena leaned in, lowering his voice. "You won't be alone. You'll have a direct line to me. No managers. No filters. Just us." Caleb didn't answer right away. The room felt heavy, like the weight of 1,000 shifts rested on his shoulders. Then, slowly, he nodded. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But in that tiny nod, Cena saw the spark of something real. A shift had begun, quiet, invisible to most, but powerful enough to change everything. For weeks, something had shifted inside Store 17. The tension that once hung like a storm cloud had started to lift. Customers noticed friendlier faces. Deliveries ran smoother. And for the first time in months, the crew laughed on the job. But good change never goes unnoticed for long. And neither does power. One morning, a corporate vehicle rolled into the lot. The door swung open, and out stepped Scott Duncan, the regional supervisor. Clipboard in hand, Bluetooth headset blinking, suit pressed sharp. He hadn't set foot in the store in months, but now he was here, and he wasn't smiling. Inside, Elise froze at the register. Trey slipped silently into the back. Even the new hires looked uneasy. But Caleb stood his ground. "Morning," Caleb said evenly. Scott's eyes scanned the store, then landed on him. "I'm here for an audit. Got a few reports." "Reports?" Caleb raised a brow. "From who?" Scott's tone sharpened. "From someone who used to work here." He didn't say the name, but everyone knew. Ron Talbot. For a split second, the store felt like it had fallen back into its old shadows. Fear crept into the room. But before Scott could push further, another voice cut through the air. "He's gone." Scott turned sharply. The voice belonged to John, the quiet new hire. Only this time, Cena wasn't holding a pizza box. He was holding something else. From his back pocket, he pulled out a small laminated card. The badge glinted under the fluorescent lights. Scott's jaw dropped. "Wait, Mr. Cena?" The room went silent. Elise's eyes widened. Trey nearly dropped a dough tray. And Caleb just stood frozen, realization flooding in. Cena stepped closer, his voice calm but unshakable. Ron crossed a line. He was cutting hours, threatening staff, breaking policy. I saw it with my own eyes. Scott fumbled. "But sir, with all respect, we can't just let a delivery driver start making calls. There's protocol." Cena cut him off, his voice low but firm. "Why not? He's been listening. That's more than I can say for the layers above him." Scott hesitated, shifting uncomfortably. "We need paperwork, vetting, formal approval." "You'll get it," Cena replied, his eyes narrowing. "But here's the deal. We do it Caleb's way now, because he's already earned it. Not on paper. In every shift you ignored." The air felt electric. The entire crew stood silently waiting. Scott looked around, at the workers who once cowered under Ron's shadow, but now stood taller, firmer, together. Finally, Scott exhaled. He didn't argue. He didn't fight. Because deep down, even he knew, Cena was right. For the first time, Store 17 wasn't running on fear. It was running on trust. The next morning, the store felt different. Not perfect. The oven still beeped randomly, the register still froze mid-order, and the floor still stuck to your shoes if you walked too fast. But beneath it all, something had changed. Caleb stood in front of the crew, holding the week's schedule in one hand. His voice wasn't loud, but it was steady. "This place only works if we all do. Not just the tasks, but the trust. And if you've got a problem, an idea, or even just a bad day, bring it to me. Don't bottle it up. We'll fix it together." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Trey gave a nod. Elise smiled. Even the new hires stood a little straighter. And just like that, Store 17 had a leader. Not because someone gave him a title, not because a form was signed, but because he cared when no one else did. That night, as the last delivery went out and the lights dimmed, Elise handed Cena a small box. Inside was a photo. The whole crew, flour on their aprons, smiles on their faces, standing behind the counter with a hand-drawn sign. Store 17, still standing. Cena looked at it for a long time, pride settling deep in his chest. He didn't need to say a word. The picture said it all. As the doors closed and Caleb locked up, Cena met him by the front. "You've built something good," Cena said quietly. Caleb shook his head. "I didn't build it. I just stopped it from falling apart." And with that, the store went dark for the night. Not with fear, but with the quiet strength of a team that finally believed in itself. If you've ever worked a shift where no one noticed your effort, but you still showed up the next day, this story is for you. And if it inspired you even a little, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, we've got another story that will hit just as hard. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.